Star Trek The Next Generation was a show that everybody I interacted with. A show that I started watching when I was a really little kid. Can you believe it's been 30 years since Star Trek The Next Generation first
Star Trek The Next Generation was my life.
I really grew up with this show.
My relationship to how I should conduct myself. It was the escape from reality. Welcome to Next Generation's First Generation, where Patrick Delmore and Sascha Shouties take a look back into their favorite childhood show, Star Trek The Next Generation. This is where we attempt to reconcile how we felt as children watching the show and looking back as old farts now in our late 30s, almost 40s. Guests, social commentary, and good old-fashioned shade-throwing on our favorite and least favorite episodes. Here comes Patrick and Sascha. Oh, I almost forgot. This is a watch-along podcast, so make sure to queue up your favorite DVD or Netflix, and we'll give you the countdown of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to basically watch along with the episode.
Welcome to another episode of Next Generation's First Generation. This is our second record of Heart of Glory because this is an episode that we wanted to put a little bit more thought into what we said about it, as this really introduces us to Worf's past for the first time. And we thought we could compare it with the past of some people here, some people we'd read about. Our group today consists of myself, Patrick Delmore, our co-host, Mr. Sascha Shouties.
Hello!
A new contributor, Bryant, is here.
Greetings.
And, of course, Matt, our designer, the guy that makes all the posters you see on these posts, is sitting in with us today.
Hello.
Woohoo! So this is a really fun episode because it really gives us the first solid backstory for Worf. It's a lot of fun because if you remember, everybody in Star Trek kind of has an episode about them and where they came. And you know what I noticed, Pat, is that no one really has an easy life growing up.
No.
So this will be an interesting thing. We are watching from our DVD. So right now we have it play paused, so we're going to give you an opportunity here to cue it up, and we'll give you a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is a watch-along podcast. So let's see here. Are we just about ready to hit play there, yep. Mr. Patrick? So count us down, please.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I'm hitting play.
Such a good-looking ship.
Yeah.
I love the blue and the red.
New starship smell.
Yeah. Fresh off the line. There's Wesley running through the hallway. We're on the wrong episode.
We are on the wrong episode.
Wah, wah. So we'll go back and edit this.
Yeah. All right.
Pick up.
Pick a bar? The heck is pick a bar?
God, Mom.
Wesley and his boyfriend.
I, like thousands of others, have actually met Will Wheaton in person.
Okay.
It was at one of the... Were you with me at that one, Pat, at Comic-Con? No, Brian. Brian was with me. We saw him at Comic-Con.
Okay. Let's do this correctly this time. We are paused at 001. Yep. Now we're going to count down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and play.
Opening with some beautiful stock footage there of the ship. Nice
Something
sideways
kite going on.
Yeah.
Tasha Yar is still alive.
Yeah, that's right. Good old Tasha. She's our Sunny Gummy. Worf is bringing us up to news about a battle, which is really interesting because we see this a lot where someone says, message from Starfleet, and they give you this really vague, nondescript, you better go check it out message. You think they'd provide a little bit more. And who is getting the information to Starfleet that they need to check out something right there in their front yard. Stole that from the opening shot. They haven't quite got the overhead lighting down right. A lot of contrast issues.
This is of known Ferengi design. It is possibly.
And they're still plugging the Ferengi story arc. And just suggested Romulan.
Yeah.
Now they actually do something with the Romulan story arc, thank goodness.
Yeah. Although they had just heard about the Romulans again and When the Bow Breaks.
Yes, that's correct.
They were trying to leave
the Ferengi behind and bring in the Romulans.
They were trying to leave the kids on that planet so they could see what was going on with the Romulans.
Right. So there we have the generic ship.
Green.
Ah, it is green. I never noticed that before. They fixed that in the HD version. So I watched this in the HD and it was a lot of fun. So Bryant, when did you first pick up on this TV series?
Oh, in high school. Probably my senior year I started really watching it.
And how old would you been in March 1988?
17.
Very cool. Do you actually remember watching this specific episode?
Nothing's cueing me off right now, but I'm sure something will seem familiar.
This one, to me, does have an immediate connection moment, which we'll talk about in a little bit. It has to do... I must have seen this right when it aired, because I remember watching it with my dad, at home, probably on a Sunday morning. I don't know that we were taping it yet, but I don't remember watching it at night. I remember watching it in the morning, so we must have... Maybe there was something on after it, so we taped The Next Generation before.
Mm-hmm.
But this is to do with Geordi using this visor cam.
Yes.
And I have vision problems to begin with. I have what's called nystagmus, and that it interferes with my depth perception. Number one, I also hold my head kind of funny, so I can definitely identify with a blind, a character that has vision issues. I also had dreams at this time about having bionic eyes, where if I moved my head too fast, the image would freeze, and I'd have to wait a couple of seconds for it to catch up.
Oh, weird.
So this is going to happen with Geordi in a minute. Really cued into me with being a 6-year-old that had dreams like that.
The identifiable, the connection. So this here is Heart of Glory, Season 1, Episode 20, directed by Rob Bowman, story by Herbert Wright and DC Fontana, and teleplay by Maurice Hurley. Now, Matt and I got into a really interesting conversation last night about how we felt about DC Fontana, and that you saw a lot of the original series tones off of Fontana's writing. And I've long said that, I don't like DC Fontana's work. Kind of dull, kind of dry. It's plug and play. It can be... It just had that old series feel to it.
We discussed that the opening music is just sped up from the Star Trek The Motion Picture. It's the same exact music, but just faster.
Is that so?
Yeah, go listen to Star Trek The Motion Picture, and you'll go, oh.
Yeah, it's played at a faster tempo.
Yeah.
It's not a sped up recording of it.
No. It's a different arrangement.
That shot of the Enterprise flying over that ship looked terrible.
Yeah. So here is Geordi Vision.
Yep.
I remember watching this and just being amazed. Thought it was the coolest thing.
1000th edition of Google Glasses here we're looking at.
The port's a bridge. This is the bridge. Worf, I've switched on the
What's cool is that, when this really takes effect, it's not going to be a visor at all. It's going to be an implant directly into the eye.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you mean the Google Glass?
No, the visor technology. Fixing me and able to give blind people the...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to be a visor. The Pat said it's going to be a...
Right into the optic nerve.
It'll be like Geordi in the movies.
It won't even be in the optic nerve. The ability for blind people to see actually has a lot more with their hearing and echolocation of objects.
Huh.
Blind children, when they are first learning to get around, use echolocation most of the time. Just pick it up naturally.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And they lose it when they go to school because the teachers don't like them making click noises all the time.
Huh. This is a really cool visual, what we're seeing. Lots of rainbow colors, outlined objects, the staggered image on the move, what you brought up, Pat.
Yeah.
Now I'm beginning to understand it.
Now, what's interesting is that Geordi's going to say something very interesting about Data. He's like, he's an android. Don't you see this? About an aura that's around him. And I thought, well, just a few episodes ago, Geordi got to see when Riker gave him vision as a gift in one of the Q episodes. Remember in Q
Yes.
Who? Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
So wouldn't he know what the vision should be? I don't know.
If it's completely different than what he's used to, he might not have even really been able to process it.
Right.
So the other flaw also in this would be a lot of these scripts were written and then the production order was changed.
Okay.
So this script could have been written, or the story, well before that, and then it was produced and aired later.
Got it. This is where also I really like LeVar Burton's educational moments. When you can tell he's comfortable with explaining things to people who don't understand.
Yes.
He's the kind of guy you want to sit you down and explain how the world works.
Yes, thank you, Riker, for bringing us back to focus on what's going on, for venting plasma and other BS, and I want to get out of here.
Right, ship in distress. My bad.
We could have had this discussion with Geordi earlier.
I like this ship. This is a cool ship. This is how alien ships should be, but not falling apart.
Or just even your standard cargo ship.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to put a polished interior with marble and carpeting and, run-of-the-mill cargo ship.
I see a lot of hints and tones of what the Borg set will be when I see this. You've got the green backlighting, the fog, you've got the conduits everywhere, you have the these HVAC tubes hanging from the ceiling, the dryer vent tubes.
It's funny because most video cameras that you would have bought at this time would have had a setting good video cameras that you bought at this time would have had a setting like what Geordi's eyes are showing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't this film?
This is film.
Yeah.
Well, what's the least dangerous route, Data? There is no significant difference. Steady on.
But I remember at this time, fooling with a video camera that had, it's color, it's black and white, it's, kind of that infrared like Geordi's seeing. Oh, and I forgot to mention, twice already you've seen Riker shove Geordi. Shoved him onto the turbo lift when they left, and when they went into this gas, he shoved Geordi in front of him, too.
Just alpha mailing.
Yep.
Grab his head. Geordi, tell me if this is hot.
Hurley wrote the screenplay for this in 2 days. Basically, This is one of those situations, Matt, where they're just in such a rush to get a product out the door that it wasn't necessarily of quality.
So Hurley, the guy who wrote this, has admitted that when he was writing this show, he knew nothing about Star Trek.
That's not a bad thing sometimes.
But he had no idea the premise. He was told to write something, and this is the parameters, and he wrote it. He had no idea what a Starfleet was, or a ship, or why they would do this, or anything about the Federation or Starfleet.
Sometimes that's better, though. If you're doing it, a very, very mannered Star Trek script.
But he also didn't know anything about the characters.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where DC Fontana came in on this. You can see her hand is she's more comfortable with the characters. I'd be interested to see what the original storyline called for the characters to do before the polish.
So, Data's walking through this damaged engine room.
Yeah, why would the gases affect him?
Yeah.
The heat, I could understand, affect the computer. But...
And they said this is deuterium gas, which I think is just a form of hydrogen, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's basically exhaust from their tailpipe.
Ah!
I found them, sir. The door to their compartment is jammed.
Okay, this is the shoving scene, yep.
Get in there! I'm gonna walk as close as I can to this heat source.
Yeah, and then he's just like, oh, well, they're not dead yet. I guess I'll go.
My forearm will save me.
Geordi and Data got blown up. Oh, good. I'm glad you didn't follow too closely behind. Nope, I did what you said. I kind of nudged Geordi on the shoulder, sent him in there, and kaboom.
Oh, this is where Data is Superman?
Yeah, Data Superman moment.
We love those moments
Yes.
with Data.
He's right, sir. Phaser just charged out to blow us all out of here.
Shall I, sir?
Dr. Pulaski in a future season calls him out. She asks him, does your hair grow? And he goes, what? Everybody always wants to know how fast I can think or how heavy I can lift. There we go. Now, I was thinking when I was watching this the other day, he'd probably have to hold that the whole time.
Yeah.
What is it? What do you see?
But, he just tightens up his shoulder bolts and holds it in place.
What? Klingons?
Klingons?
Did you say spring rolls?
I, of course. We'll handle the formalities later. Right now, we have to get off this ship. Are there any other survivors?
The guy who plays that Klingon ends up playing several roles in Voyager and Enterprise years later.
Yeah.
He plays Admiral Forrest in Enterprise.
No way.
Yeah.
What?
And he plays
He is alive, sir.
a recovered Borg drone in Voyager.
That's right. His name, I think, is Vaughn Armstrong.
As you wish. Come on, let's go.
So now they finally realize the ship's about to explode while they were dilly-dallying when they first beamed over.
Yeah, we couldn't get Data to open the door wider so we could just get out
Poor
of there.
Tasha, she's like waiting like a cat to spring because they just heard, we encountered Klingons. And she's like, okay, I should have been given orders that second. And Picard's like,
Yeah. Well, they don't really explain the new alliance they have with Klingons in the show until the very end of this episode.
Yeah, when was Undiscovered Country?
Not for another 4 years.
So we hadn't really established what our relations and how strong the peace was with the Klingons yet.
Wait, no, in the timeline of the show.
In the timeline of the show,
already
yes.
happened, but the movie did not come out until 1991.
So,
Okay.
yeah, they hadn't really figured out.
Now, I'm really surprised that a Klingon would look surprised and
Yeah.
scared there.
Yeah. I would say he might even look happy.
If we hold to our mission, we will be discussing Undiscovered Country in detail on this podcast.
There's Tasha. She got him.
So we have head of security running the transporter?
Because there's Klingons.
Oh.
Well, O'Brien was on his coffee break.
It comes in, what the bloody...
Who messed up all the settings? This isn't my screensaver.
Okay, so here comes, the real meat of this episode is Worf's relationship to other Klingons.
Another Klingon, what's he doing there? I mean, this is really... There are a lot of questioning and inflammatory glances going on here, where there's a lot being said that's not being said. And he's being really polite.
Yeah.
For a Klingon. So, these guys were passengers on a cargo ship. The ship was ambushed. And
Picard doesn't have anywhere near the relationship with the Klingons that Kirk did.
No, you're
and
right.
I want to make a correction on the last episode that we did, where I talked about Worf's psych test, what that would have been like, and I had mistakenly said that he would be under Picard after Star Trek 3. What I meant to say is he would be under Kirk after Star Trek 3. In a situation where he's being judged completely for being a Klingon right after Kirk's son David was murdered by the Klingons. So he would be on the Enterprise serving under Kirk. That would be what his Starfleet psych test would be.
So they're establishing here that it was the Ferengi that ambushed them.
Yeah.
And killed them with Merculite rockets.
Our only chance was to trick them into lowering their shields.
Worf's like, yeah, I don't buy it.
Then, when they lowered their shields...
Yeah, these guys really aren't playing up the Klingon at all.
Those Targs just won't hunt.
It's very interesting because this was before the Klingon language was really established. So when they were talking in Klingon in the few times in this episode, they're just kind of making sounds that are Klingon-y sounding.
Yeah, these two should be talking about how they just need a Swiss Army knife and they'd be able to take out the Ferengi.
Yeah.
What do you think, Captain? There's more to this than we've been told. How was that Terranian ship so far?
I could take on those big-eared creatures with just my boat talk, too. I would be able to do it with just a flap. Are those actual words, or were you just posturing? And Worf's like snickering in the background.
You just say what I thought he said?
Yeah.
How's your patient, Doctor?
Oh, yeah, that guy. Oh, she only has 2 hypo sprays, one for on and one for off.
On and one for off.
This is a really good scene. Because here, presumably, this is one of the first times that Worf, as an adult, gets to hang out with his kind.
I did not know there were Klingons serving on humans.
Now he has to tell his story.
As far as I know, I'm the only...
And the story is not going to be good.
Nope.
What is it like for the hunter to lie down with the prey? Have they tamed you?
Oh, they're challenging him
Always been docile.
for being weak, living amongst the humans.
Has it filled your heart with peace? Do glorious battles no longer inspire your dreams?
Yeah, Klingons as we know and love.
Yeah, they're picking on him.
Wish to humor me. Only to see if it is still possible.
They're testing him to see if he'll respond as a Klingon. Now, the Deep Space Nine Worf would have just punched him.
Yeah. It's like, my record speaks for itself.
I think it's an impacted bow.
Get the hypo spray.
He had some bad gah.
Yeah, by the time of Deep Space Nine, I mean, Worf had saved Galeron and...
Yeah, his brother was on the High Council.
Yeah.
And that Worf is a completely different Worf from this one here. This Worf is, he's really insecure. He's trying to figure out who he is as an individual.
He's dying.
I remember this as a child kind of blew me away. You had this mysterious culture of men that you didn't really know what was up.
Is he Lieutenant Worf right now?
Yes.
Okay, so he's a Lieutenant junior grade at this point.
Look at his teeth. Look at his teeth. Oh, he needs to brush his teeth.
Oh.
They're all doing this
Klingon
death chant.
Like I
Death
said,
roar. That's kind of cool. So everyone's roaring. Their buddy has died.
We'll be sure to do that when you go.
No. Well, you can do whatever you want when I go, because I won't see it.
Star Wars pyre, I think.
Star Wars pyre?
Yeah, we'll take you out in the woods and bring
Dress you up like Darth Vader and light you on fire.
I don't know. What if the
Please make sure I'm dead first before you do that.
What if
come on.
What if the pyre scene in Return of the King becomes more famous than the Star Wars pyre?
So, what they didn't explain here, which future Star Trek does, is that when you scream as a warrior, you're basically letting the people in the afterlife know that
A warrior
is on the way.
Molar.
Molar is the Klingon devil, essentially.
Well, that's Feklar. Molar is just the ruler of the underworld. The realm of the dead.
Now, that's kind of cool. Worf is just calling him out. I don't believe your story. What really happened?
Yeah.
And they redirected the conversation as to what happened to you.
Yeah, Worf's now telling the story of what happened at Kittimer. The Romulans attacked the Klingons at the Kittimer outpost, and he was raised by a human Starfleet officer, not on Earth, but on a colony.
Mm-hmm. Gaunt, I believe.
Yeah.
So when was the Age of Inclusion, would you say?
I think it's 9 or 10, because Alexander is about to reach the Age of Inclusion the last time we see him.
Okay.
Alexander will be Worf's son in the future.
I thought it was 12. For some reason.
Okay.
Right before you become a teenager.
Yeah.
But Worf was old enough to already know his original culture and his original language.
Yeah.
And then he was adopted. You think the Federation would turn around and say, "Hey, we found one of your kids at the scene of this battle. Would you like to?"
Well, they might have rejected him and killed him immediately.
Oh, you think?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, they're pretty intent on the good death. So, being rescued, you're tainted.
Well, you should have been killed by the enemy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Even the kids should have fought to the last breath.
Yeah, and that's very. That was the problem with invading Japan is they would have fought, the children and the women would have fought to the death. So there's a little bit of Japanese cultural in with the Klingons.
Yeah, I mean they had the school kids sharpening sticks in Japan, and we're told if the Americans invade, run at them.
Wow. What's the what cultural type are the Klingons based off of?
So in the original series, they based them off the Russians.
All right.
Cold War. Next Generation, it's like a blend of Viking, German, and Japanese. You got the Japanese honor system.
Mm-hmm.
I always relate the language and the other, with the drinking of the blood wine and everything to the German culture.
The Teutonic kind of German culture.
The old medieval kind.
Okay.
And then the Vikings, just because of the, we prefer hand-to-hand combat, broad, stuff. And then it evolved. You see the Japanese more come back in Deep Space Nine when Worf is talking about, goes more into their martial arts.
Right.
And stuff like that. And he even develops their version of an unarmed Tai Chi kind of thing.
Ah. Now, thank you for explaining that. I can never keep track of character development's really tough for me when it comes to continuity because, I don't know if they meant to go this direction or if it just kind of fell that way.
A lot of times it just kind of falls that way because, again, they have especially in the early seasons of these shows, they didn't have continuity yet because they hadn't established it.
Ah, right. And then this was written by a guy who doesn't know very much about Star Trek to begin with.
Yeah, so he's just, they'd say, well, they're giving you like a 5-second brief on the Klingons, and he is just to create stuff.
Now, while we were talking, we missed an interesting scene where Worf and the two guesting Klingons just kind of chit-chatted about, what's Worf's story, how he got there, how he... Maybe his senses were kind of dulled growing up in the new Federation culture. They also talked about, hey, can I see the ship? What's going on? They're now on a tour. And the two guesting Klingons here are very... Hey, we can have a lot of glorious battles in a ship like this. So they're really foreshadowing that, all we want to do is fight.
Our instincts will lead us. Instincts that have not been dulled by living among civilized.
So while they're talking about instincts, I found this really cool quote on it's from Eric Erickson, and he says, "Tradition is to humans what instinct is to animals." And this was from I have a Mr. Rogers Platitude of the Day calendar, and that's what this came from. So Mr. Rogers says, "Imagine the chaos if animals lost their instincts. So would it be if human beings were to lose all their traditions. The study of history helps keep these traditions alive. When we study how our ancestors dealt with challenges, we can hopefully learn from their successes and failures and fashion our responses to challenges in even more naturally human ways." And the thing about Star Trek is that what it is talking about is humans. That's the there's the metaphor level. I mean, there's the quote literal level where yes, this is a completely different species, but it's not. They're people that just have different traditions than
they're playing the different countries and cultures. Yeah. Now, here they are talking to a captain, and you notice they say a lot in the back screen there, just with showing the UFP symbol and the Klingon symbol that there is an alliance. That really kind of weirded me out as a kid, like, hey, what? Oh, are we allies? What's going on? The ship footage there actually was stolen, I think, from the motion picture, if I remember correctly.
I think they just messed up.
You think they messed up?
Well, look, we're on a Federation ship and we're allied with the Klingons. You don't see a Klingon flag hanging next to the Federation flag.
Yeah.
We're allies with England and France. We don't have a French and English flag flying on our warships.
Unless he has some Federation delegates on his ship and is flying the Federation flag because of that.
Well, they needed... I think it's bad writing, is that they just needed a quick, non-scripted cue that you could look and see that we're friends. Okay, this security guard right here... who's standing right next to Tasha. His name is Dexter Clay. He has been in about 30 episodes. No speaking parts. Has never been named as a member, just security officer number 1. He's been body doubles for Worf. So he was a busy bee in the show for the first couple of seasons, but never really played any big role. He actually, let me pull out my show notes here. Dexter actually was training to play for the Houston Oilers, but due to an injury, he could never follow up on his football career. He ended up moving to Hollywood and was homeless, living out of his Mazda pickup truck with his sheepdog Cricket.
Aww.
I know, right? So he's just kind of making slim livings working in a restaurant, and then he did a casting call for Next Gen, and he was picked up for about 2 seasons. During that time, after the show, he continued to live in Los Angeles and actually eventually became an executive director of the National Homeless Plan. He also moved on to authoring several books about football and how to run a successful programs. Some of the books that he's written, Katie Nation and Black Eye on America. He actually also later directed a television show called Tia Pancha, Pancha. It was a reality TV show based about a Hispanic family who turns a flea market around into a thriving business. We were kind of joking around that, we should probably call this guy up and try to get him onto the show and talk about his time. And then when I looked him up, it turns out he passed away from cancer just recently, August 26th of 2017. So I was pretty upset about that.
This is our first time seeing the brig, which is very different than what the brig will later be.
That's a terrible brig.
With just converted crew quarters.
Brig on the fly.
Pretty much.
Look how red this guy's eyes are.
Oh yeah, I can tell that's Vaughn Armstrong now.
Yeah. The Klingon makeup was not forgiving.
Do you think Patrick Stewart had a hard time saying lieutenant every time? Because his natural instinct would be to pronounce it lieutenant.
Yeah, probably.
I've never noticed that until now.
Yeah.
Well, he is an actor, so
yeah.
Yeah.
But he's acting in what his actual accent is. So presumably he's speaking the way he's used to speaking. So, or if there were anywhere that they had to coach him to say lieutenant, not lieutenant. But
He must be tall. His people. The Klingon vessel is within range, sir.
It's odd that he's openly making these supposition comments about Worf.
Yeah.
While he's in the room.
In front of his men.
Yeah, that's really strange.
We're prepared to transfer. Captain. Request permission to address the captain on the Klingon vessel.
Now this is cool.
I know it is against standard procedure, but there is something I must say.
Worf is going to plead for more or less an honor killing. I don't know how well you can hear the television show in this recording, but Worf is going to address the captain here and basically say, I know these men are criminals and they're going to be sent home to be executed, but they're going to be executed for living the glorious battle life. That's something that we all seek and yearn for. The captain agrees, but says, we can't just live a life of battle anymore. So Worf makes an interesting suggestion. Why don't we send them to XYZ planet where they can die on their feet fighting the local wildlife?
I hear their words, and I see it all as it was. Part of me longs for that time.
And Worf is reaching out to his own cultural connection.
Planet in the Holly system, where they can meet death on their feet with a weapon in their hands.
There we go. Death on their feet, weapon in their hands.
Yes. Brother, I feel as you. I too wish they could fly free, but I have no choice. Sir.
So it's very interesting because the Klingon culture is all about war and battle and glory, right? So why would they enter into an alliance at all? Do you think that they would just be perpetually fighting and going and going?
I don't wonder if we could have it turn out later on. This is the thing here that he's messing with. He took off out of the shoe of his dead comrade. Make this device. But I don't wonder if Starfleet did make some backdoor arrangements with the Klingons that they could do some stuff for Starfleet that Starfleet wouldn't take credit for and the Klingons could take credit for it.
So they're subcontracting the violence to the Klingons?
Could be.
Say, hey, we need you to go over here and rough these guys up.
Klingons are... Not everybody, but just certain Klingons are doing wet work stuff for the Federation.
Well,
they did that in the Dominion War. They alluded to Starfleet did most of the space battles, but when they invaded a planet, it was the Klingons that did the ground fighting.
Some terrible acting there by the security guards. This guy he's sitting down, and then when he gets shot, he's standing up, which makes no sense. Sitting down. Oh, he's standing.
Yeah.
With his gun to his side. What the heck? The weapon that they assembled is pretty flimsy, too.
Well, very well that Starfleet could have already whooped the Klingons, and the Klingons are in this alliance out of maybe some self-preservation.
To arbitrate?
Yeah.
See, we really don't know what happens with the politics of the era until we get into much later into the series.
Captain, there will be a short delay. Collis has escaped.
Now, this is a really cool interchange because the Klingons have escaped. Picard is up to letting the Klingon ship know, hey, it's going to be a while till you get these guys. And then the Klingon captain offers, hey, would you like us to send some Klingons to hunt these guys down? Mm-hmm. That would have been a very interesting, action-packed show.
Yeah, it would have.
Just have this rolling firefight and brawl through the ship.
I do like this music for this.
On Spotify now, they have a lot of the episode music published.
Oh, nice. The Ron Jones stuff?
Yep.
Nice.
It's called the Ron Jones Project. I think it's about 16 or 17 episodes where they just have the soundtracks. Actually, I've been listening to a lot of those as I edit the audio for the show.
And that's called the Ron Jones Project?
Mm-hmm.
That is really cool.
See.
So you think that she'd be able just to sharpshoot him? I don't understand all this.
I would agree.
I don't
In
understand
fact,
all the posturing at all.
I think that Tasha hand-to-hand against the Klingon would do pretty good, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then we already established they have wide-beam stun. And Worf knows the risks.
Yeah.
It's one of those officers, and he's like, that's part of it. Or, the other officers there, you just... and stun them.
Everybody, sort it out later.
Or
Yeah.
erect shields around the warp core, please.
There's no reason for
I know.
Picard to need to go with Worf down here. I mean, what's it? Number one, Yar would probably tell him to go back to the bridge and that he can watch what they're doing from from the bridge.
These department heads do not take leadership very well. They're just like, oh, whatever. Okay, the boss is here. We'll let him deal with it.
And it's like I had said in the previous episode, Homecoming, the boss in all of these situations should be Riker, not Picard. Picard is the guy that makes sure that the ship knows where it's going.
Yeah, Picard's job is to tell the other Klingon captain what happened.
Yes.
After he gets a report from Riker.
Now, in the first draft of the script, this encounter here was all supposed to happen right in front of the dilithium chamber. But they thought for just more cinematic effect that they'd have it on 2 floors.
I'd rather die here than let the traitors of Kling pick the meat from my bones.
So this guy is really pissed because he doesn't want to live in the new world that the Klingons have set up for themselves, living in this peaceful alliance. He wants to go out and fight and make battle.
Yep.
That's all he's interested in. That's his birthright.
Captain Picard will not comply. Dare not refuse us. In order to save themselves, they will give us what we demand. Then, brother, we are free.
Also, I think he just might be a little crazy on the adrenaline.
Wait. I do not believe this. Believe it. I have tasted your heart. You have been with them, but you are still of us. Do not deny the challenge of your destiny. Get off your knees and soar. Open your eyes.
So he's trying to
Take flight. My brother
encourage Worf into taking up arms with him to glorious battle.
The true test of a warrior is not without.
And
It is within.
Worf's whole gig is loyalty, honor, duty.
Yeah.
It's overcoming your own challenges before you fight others, and that's the true mark of a warrior.
Yeah, well, they hadn't really established a Klingon sense of honor yet in the series.
They really haven't. Well, this is it right here. They're having a conversation between old Klingon and new Klingon.
Duty, honor, loyalty.
There it is. Duty, honor, loyalty.
Warrior is nothing.
And if you have no honor, then that's it.
Living among these humans has sucked the Klingon heart out of you.
Now he's just more or less calling him a traitor.
It's funny because I'm slowly watching Oliver Stone's Nixon, and honor was so much of his excuse for the awful stuff that he did.
Really?
That he spearheaded in Vietnam. That's like, yeah, we could stop what we're doing, but it's not honorable to stop what we're doing.
Look at that underside of the set there.
Right, so that glass wasn't up to code.
Right? Remind me never to trip and fall up by the warp core. I
Or
might
drop your coffee mug.
Yeah,
drop through the floor.
Nobody's supposed to be up here.
that would be an awesome thing in a graphic novel or something where you show O'Brien being like, these catwalks aren't safe at all. It's like, what do you mean? We're both standing here, and O'Brien just drops his mug, and he's like, okay, step back, and the whole thing shatters.
There we go. Very Planet of the Apes there.
Twice in one day, too.
Picard is not happy.
He's like, oh,
Yar's
Osha's going to be all over me for this.
Yar's not happy, and she shouldn't be, because it's like she could totally read Worf's behavior as being super aggressive right there.
May I speak with Lieutenant Worf?
Now this is also a good conversation. Again, I don't know if you can hear the TV on the recording, but Worf and the commander of this Klingon ship, he's like, how did they die? Did they die honorably? Because that was the big concern. They wanted to make sure that these guys weren't executed, that they died in battle. And guess what? They got what they wanted. It was a nice resolution to the cultural
Your
conflict.
total duty on the Enterprise is complete. Consider serving with us. Your training and experience would benefit us. And perhaps there are some things we could teach you.
And I think this is one of the few times where a complete stranger said to Worf, please come and join us.
Yeah, you're not Klingon enough.
Yeah.
Because the rest of the time it's, you're sort of half Klingon.
What he just says to Worf foreshadows Worf's entire arc in this show and the very next show that he's in.
Very true.
He basically has set out to tell us all that's going to happen to Worf for the rest of the time we see Worf on screen.
Worf is really never truly accepted until Martok gives him that job as ambassador at the end of Deep Space Nine.
I have no desire to leave the Enterprise.
All the way up until that point, he's always had conflict.
Set in, Captain.
Speed. Walk 5.
Aye, sir. Warp 5.
Oh, well.
But every Klingon has conflict in their life. Except that enormous opera singer on Deep Space Nine. You gotta guess
That guy! Oh,
Yeah, that guy seems pretty chill with being a Klingon.
Yeah. All right.
that was it. Code of Honor. So we have a couple of things to talk about. We've got... I have a little commentary I wanted to read. We also wanted to do our reviews of thoughts, Sunny Gummies, and then also we have an email to read as well. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So, let's go ahead and get started with the commentary. I wrote this because I was so moved with Worf's battle about his cultural connection. It was basically, here we go. So what's the deal with Worf? He was adopted as a child by his parents from another culture, the Federation. As he grew, his physiological and psychosocial traits as a Klingon were getting in the way of him fitting in with the dominant culture. He learned to assimilate, ease back, control himself, and tame the yearnings within to do glorious battle. He maintained his native tongue and some apparent cultural traits as seen in previous episodes where he performs various ceremonies. When meeting Commander Chorus and Lieutenant Conmel in this episode, they saw that Worf had somewhat assimilated to the Federation culture, and they mocked him to see if he would respond in the culturally appropriate way to see just how much or little of a Klingon he was. Later, they used this to shame Worf about his assimilation into the Federation culture. They perceived Worf as supporting the attitudes and position of the Federation's culture, which were against the interests of the Klingon culture. Throughout the episode, they played with this concept in an attempt to call him out. You're not Klingon enough. Worf was not fooled by this for a minute. In the final scene, he confronted Commander Chorus. When Chorus realized the situation was not going his way, he called out Worf, saying that it was every Klingon's birthright to have glorious battle. Worf understood his cultural heritage, namely the values of duty, honor, loyalty, the true things a warrior must have. The only cultural value that Chorus wanted was battle. He never talked about those other values of which Worf prided himself on. Chorus accused Worf's life with humans to have sucked out his Klingon heart, and that his blood had no fire, specifically saying, "I don't care what you look like, you are not a Klingon." Essentially, Chorus is calling Worf a traitor to his own race. Worf knew he was full of it and shot him. This episode told the fundamental facts about Worf. For all essential purposes, he was an adopted immigrant child who was struggling with assimilation with a newer, more dominant culture over the one he was born into. Eventually, he grew up in this new culture, walking the line between his adopted and birth culture. Finally, as an adult, he reconnects with members of his birth culture, only to be called out as a fake and not a true member. Thankfully, Worf knew enough about himself to stand up for who he was, rather than what type of person people thought he should be. This was a really difficult episode for me to research. First of all, when I first watched this, I called out this interaction as racism, and I got pretty worked up about it. As I did my research and I talked to individuals about their own racial experiences, I realized this is a much more complex issue. My research took me into topics such as segmented assimilation, the acculturation process, and the endless reference materials of in-groups calling themselves out and others as race traitors. This research has really opened my eyes into the complexity of culture, race, and status within a society. At the end of the day, this is why I appreciate Star Trek. There are times when the writing will tease and discuss real-day social commentary, and maybe prompt the viewer to ask some questions, put down the remote, and kind of learn about what's going on in the outside world. So, yeah, it was exactly as you said, Pat, is that Star Trek, it may be different cultures, but really, it may be really, excuse me. What you said earlier in this episode, Patrick, was that, yeah, on the face value, there might be Klingons or Romulans or whatever, but really they're just different groups of people, and you have to learn to get along with them and appreciate those relationships. So, for that, when I look at this episode and I give it a rating, I would actually have to say this is about 3 or 4 Sunny Gummies out of 5, because it made an attempt to give an interesting struggle and backstory to Worf, which frankly just didn't exist before.
Yep.
And the sad part is they had 2 days to write it, and it was pretty clear. I mean, the content was kind of dry and rushed, and it was written by a guy who didn't really understand much Star Trek, but they delivered a product.
Let's look at whose backstories they've given us in detail so far.
Okay.
Troy.
Yes.
not a great episode.
Terrible.
Data, which is an episode that does get built upon quite a bit. And then Worf, who so much more comes of this Worf story for years. I think Deep Space Nine went off the air in 2000, so we're looking at 12 more years of stuff carrying over from this Worf thing. Whereas with Data, there's another 2 episodes coming out. I think 3 episodes where it deals with his brother. Maybe another 5 or 6 where it deals with his backstory. If you count the Enterprise episodes, I think that makes it 6. But yeah,
Nemesis.
And Nemesis, yeah. But the Worf thing has really, really lasting repercussions, not just for Worf, but for Klingon stuff and for backstory that they're going to add to the original series in 1991. Yeah. In fact, Michael Dorn is in that movie playing an ancestor of Mr. Worf.
That's right. That's right.
But, so we have email. When you send an email to our email address, which is nextgenfirstgenpod@gmail.com, we will read it on the air. So this is from Aaron Henley again. Aaron Henley hosts the show Tangents Abound over at Two True Freaks. And just in case I forget, I want to get this out of the way first. We do like to keep things in the family and talk about what shows we like that we're listening to. If you want to hear more about Deep Space Nine and Star Trek, the original series, and even Next Generation, Two True Freaks is a great podcasting hub to go to. They have Listen to the Prophets, where they talk about Deep Space Nine, and a show called Star Trek Monthly Mondays, where they talk about both the original series and the Next Generation. They're on the 3rd season of Next Generation right now, and they kind of pick randomly episodes of the original series to look at. The most recent one as of this recording was Plato's Stepchildren, and it is a hilarious episode, so you guys should check that out. Now, Aaron's email. He says, "Hello, my fellow first-geners. I'll leave it to you to determine who gets top billing. Here's my thoughts on some more TNG Season 1 and just how many Sunny Gummies they deserve. Episode 11, Haven. So there's a life force connecting everything to everyone according to Oksana Troy. Huh. Sounds awfully familiar to something else. So apparently creepy extragalactic stalking is a thing. Also, this guy was supposed to marry Troy because their parents arranged it. If they were such good friends, shouldn't the guy's parents have shown him a couple photos? I guess Christmas cards aren't sent in the 24th century. Also, the Enterprise crew is pretty relaxed when it comes to the life as we know it end of the world plague ship is approaching an inhabited system. Just because it's slow moving doesn't mean it's stopping. You want to be a bit more active there, Picard, and stop that ship maybe as far from the most innocent populated planet as possible. Also, a perfect example of why the Prime Directive being rewrote from non-interference with pre-warp cultures, which was never followed anyway, to a complete hands-off by Roddenberry was a stupid idea. If humanity has reached a utopian ideal, it's still only natural for us to help fellow beings, especially people of a race that's about to go extinct. I'll give Oksana credit for maybe realizing her daughter was unhappy and trying her own way to break up the engagement. But here's what I would have done at the dinner if I was Picard. Madam, you have 2 choices. Tell him to stop ringing that damn gong or I shoot you. Captain, you wouldn't dare. Madam, phasers have a stun setting for a good reason. Would you like me to demonstrate? Overall, this is a weak episode. I give it 2 out of 5 Sunny Gummies. Episode 12, The Big Goodbye. So the first episode where the holodeck runs amok and decides to kill everyone. The costumes, the setting, and the sheer joy Picard was having before the red shirt, blue shirt, of the episode got shot was very nice to see. While the story did not offer too much to discuss or chew on, it's still very enjoyable. I give it 4 out of 5 Sunny Gummies. Episode 13, Datalore. Brent Spiner has a blast as the evil twin, and we find out just what happens when you build an emotional android without a conscience. I'm sure Dr. Soong didn't plan on building a sociopath, but he did. Also, Riker, you see the children's drawings of death and destruction caused by the same monster in every single one, and just go, oh, that's cute? What is wrong with people in the 24th century? It was unnerving with lore torturing Data with the on-off switch, but still, shouldn't he immediately be stuttering help or something as soon as he was switched on? Also, if he's turned off, what happens to his memory? Would it be stored in a hard drive, or would he lose the last few minutes as if his RAM is cleared out? Oh well. For the performance by Brent Spiner, Wesley actually saving the day, and before I forget, I may hate how he was written, but I didn't want him having a bayonet shoved through him. Yeah, we gave Aaron a shout out when Wesley was bayoneted in the Q-Who episode. I'm giving this one a coveted 5 out of 5 Sunny Gummies.
Hey.
Episode 14, Angel 1. I never thought there could be a worse episode than The Naked Now. I was wrong. Hey, Troy. I sense great jealousy from you as your ex is banging the hot Amazon and I'm not even an empath. The theme was about apartheid? No. Just no. Let's move on. 1 out of 5 Sunny Gummies for Riker's epic chest hair. Episode 15, the binary one. So, are the Binars part of the Federation or not? If they were, as I assume since they pretty much have free reign on Starfleet vessels, why would they need to steal a ship in the first place? Just ask for help. Also, I'm not an astronomer, but if one sun goes supernova in a binary system, wouldn't the other stars suffer massive to catastrophic damage and go nova as well? Also, as we see later in Generations, a star going supernova blows up everything in the system.
Yes.
Oh, that was bad writing.
Yes.
Just saying it caused a massive EMP. I'm giving this 1 out of 5 Sunny Gummies for Minuet, or 3 out of 5 Sunny Gummies for Minuet, and now I have to get a mop and scrub down the holodeck. Don't tell me Riker didn't sleep with her after the suggestive trombone playing. See you guys next time. Well, he would have slept with her if Picard hadn't come in.
Yeah, he had a raging tromboner.
Yeah.
I mean, what the heck? Star Trek just ruins supernovas for me. It seems to, every time they bring it up, they get it wrong. It pisses me off. I mean, there are a lot of weird things that happen in the show, but that's the one thing I'm fixated on.
It's like supernova, more like stupid nova.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate you.
Well, thanks for writing in. We really appreciate it. There's one last question that we didn't ask our panelists. So, Patrick, you never said how many Sunny Gummies you gave this episode.
Oh, I would give it 4 out of 5 for
4
sure.
4 out of 5. Cool. Very cool. How about you, Bryant?
3.
About a 3. So why the low score?
Maybe it's my bad memory. It just pacing could be a little better. There could have been a little more content, but now we have some insights that maybe it was rushed. So
yeah, exactly. And Mr. Matthew,
I'll give it a 3. I felt the Klingons were too whiny.
Yeah, and they're unnecessarily polite.
They weren't Klingons, at least the way that I'm used to them.
Yeah.
Or the real Klingons would have been, why are you doing this? It's like, I don't need to give you an explanation.
Mm-hmm. But we're spoiled because we have that obstinate Deep Space Nine Klingon aftertaste. Where everybody's a little rougher. We have to remember that they're just writing the cultures of the species right now as we're watching it. So, okay, well, thank you very much. Please tune in. One thing you might notice is the unusual release of these episodes because we try to release them on the 30-year anniversary date. And so sometimes they just skip a week for a random reason, and that kind of caught us by surprise. You may have noticed that with Coming of Age, we accidentally dropped that one about a week or 2 early because the calendar caught us by surprise. So you should be seeing this one in late March. And thank you so much for listening, and have a great day.
Why am I interviewing this?
So you're the guest.
So Sasha, what is Star Trek?
Hi,
Next
I'm the
Generation?
guest.
So Sasha, what is Star Trek Next Generation? We're only in the first season right now, so there's a lot that's coming down the line.
Seek us out at Next Generation's First Generation at iTunes, Google Play, and YouTube. Music credits include Electric Car by Poddington Bear. Music heard in this podcast can be found at freemusicarchive.org. Audio engineering by Sascha Shouties. Chief Meme Maker and episode cover credit goes to Matthew Kirshner. Logo and graphic art design credit goes to David Clawwitter. And special thanks to Patrick Delmore for working with other podcasts to make sure the good word gets out.
Do you have a podcast that you think people should be listening to? Send us your promos and we'll play them on the show. If you'd like to email the show, you can email us at nextgenfirstgenpod@gmail.com. I've been Patrick Delmore.
And this is Sascha Shouties. Thank you very much for listening and have a wonderful day.
Good night.
Beautiful as Aphrodite, wise as Athena, stronger than Hercules, swifter than Mercury. Explore the 75-year history of the Amazon princess with Wonder Woman, Warrior for Peace, a monthly podcast available on iTunes, Stitcher, and at wonderwomanwarriorforpeace.wordpress.com.